Welcome to the magnificent Österreich Ring, deep in the Styrian mountains of Austria, near to the Yugoslavian and Hungarian borders, to see the 1981 Austrian Grand Prix. And you see the competitors there forming up on the grid for this 53-lap race, and it's 3.7 miles to the lap, so the full race distance is just over 195 miles an hour. And as ever, it is the turbocharged Renaults and Ferraris which have made the pace in the practice. Not surprisingly, because René Arnoux, the French driver of the French turbocharged Renault, was fastest in practice in 1980 last year and 1979. And there is the World Championship position. Critical race for Carlos Reutemann. Nelson Piquet is now only 8 points behind him. Then the Frenchman Jacques Laffite a further 10 points back. Alan Jones, the reigning world champion. Gilles Villeneuve, who has won 2 Grand Prix this year. And John Watson, the winner of the British Grand Prix at Silverstone 2 races ago. Well, there is Arnoux, fastest in practice for the 3rd year in succession, and must surely be hoping for victory in this Austrian Grand Prix, because 1981 has not been the best of years for him. There, however, is his teammate Alain Prost, the winner of the French Grand Prix, and who, by the way, is anxiously waiting news of his wife, because he is due to become a father literally any moment, and the Renault mechanics have got a board all prepared saying, "Welcome, Papa," to hold out of his pits if it happens during the race. And what Alain will do if he sees that board, I really can't imagine. There's Gilles Villeneuve, already a father, the French-Canadian, superb driver, in the very difficult to handle Italian turbocharged Ferrari, 3rd fastest in practice. And it's significant that there's 3 turbocharged cars. There is Jacques Laffite, the Frenchman, yet to win a Grand Prix this year, but he's very well up in the World Championship, indeed in 3rd position, driving his Talbot Matra, and you can see he's got his fireproof balaclava helmet on, as has the man who is leading the World Championship. There he is, Carlos Reutemann, the Argentine driver. Peter Windsor, the journalist in the background. There is the reigning world champion, Alan Jones. And although the sun is not actually shining on the course, it's very hot and overcast. Nelson Piquet, 2nd in the World Championship last year, gives us a wave from the cockpit. And now it's all ready for the formation lap. They've actually done 1 lap around the course already, and this is the last full circuit that they will do around this absolutely superb circuit. High up, it's 2,000 feet up, and that gives another advantage to the turbocharged cars. It's very, very fast, as I told you, but there is plenty of room for passing around the Österreich Ring, like Silverstone, like Hockenheim, and unlike the more twisty circuits like Zolder and Jarama in Spain. You can see from the farmland in the background that the Österreich Ring is magnificently situated, and over the practice and the race period there are something like 100,000 spectators here to watch the event. Well, they've done about half a lap now. They're into the Texaco bends. Very, very tricky, and I'll give you some of the speeds. They do, believe it or not, under race conditions, some 145 miles an hour around these 2 left-hand bends. There is the grid. Arnoux and Prost in pole and 2nd fastest positions. Then Villeneuve in the turbo Ferrari. Jacques Laffite 4th, Reutemann 5th, Jones 6th, Nelson Piquet in 7th position, and then Didier Pironi in the 2nd Ferrari. Up to the start line they come. Keep an eye on that Sul America board, because to the left of it you'll see as they go past completing the laps an indication of how many laps there are to go. 53 Runden then, 53 laps, the 2 turbos in the front, and Villeneuve gets an absolute flyer. Villeneuve, with a quicker pickup on his turbo, has taken the lead as they go up towards the Helle Licht curve and chicane on lap 1. Now, who's behind him? It's the two Renaults. It's Prost in second place. Arnoux is third. Then Lafitte, Pironi, Reutemann and Jones, and Nelson Piquet is in there. That is Jean-Pierre Jarier. And already Villeneuve is exploiting the superior power of the Ferrari, and Pironi is up into fourth place. So it's four turbocharged cars, and I can see some Italian spectators who went absolutely berserk as Villeneuve took the lead at the start. Now they are on the fastest part of the course, which is the drop down to the Bosch curve, and it's some 175 miles an hour at this left-hander. Into the Bosch curve, and it is Villeneuve leading. Prost is in second place, Arnoux third, then Pironi, then Lafitte in the blue Talbot Matra. And behind Lafitte, let's see who comes through. No, we just missed it. There are the first three, turbo, 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 turbo. Four cars. And it looks as though the turbocharged cars have got a terrific advantage here. It's Lafitte, then it's Piquet sandwiched between the two Williams cars. Over the crest they come. It's Reutemann, Piquet, Jones, Alan Jones, the world champion. Over the crest, down to the Jochen Rindt corner, named after the ex-world champion and Austrian himself. And as they stream over the skyline with Patrick Tambay, Salazar, they're completing the lap. And it's Villeneuve leading at the end of lap one, and right in his slipstream is Alain Prost. And Prost is putting out, he's going to try and take the lead. Over the crest, has he done it? Yes, he has. He's forced his way through, and Villeneuve is off. Gilles Villeneuve off the course, and so is Reutemann behind him. What's happened? Well, they both look perfectly all right. They must have just misjudged the speed, knew they couldn't get round the right-hander. And now, where is Villeneuve? Villeneuve has recovered in a masterly fashion. That is quite incredible. And there is Riccardo Patrese ahead of one of the Lotus, one of the John Player Lotus cars, and Hector Ribac right behind him. Then the two Alfa Romeos of Bruno Giacomelli and Mario Andretti, Patrick Tambay, and here is Carlos Reutemann. Reutemann, let's see where he is. There is Jacques Lafitte. Round the right-hander at the Bosch curve. And so now it is Alain Prost in the lead. Villeneuve has gone off, of course. Reutemann went up to sixth position in the melee after he'd gone off. And so now Alain Prost, the Frenchman, the winner of the French Grand Prix, is followed in second place by Arnoux. Then Pironi, and Lafitte is fourth. Piquet's fifth. Villeneuve is into sixth place, ahead of Alan Jones seventh, and Reutemann in eighth position. Lap 2. And that's De Cesaris, who went off again in practice for the 17th time this season. So Pironi goes through in third position in the Ferrari, with Jacques Lafitte right behind him. And the two turbocharged Renaults, there they are. Prost and Arnoux seem to be making a bit of a breakaway. And Jacques Lafitte is right up with Pironi. Pironi third, Lafitte fourth. Piquet in fifth position, Villeneuve sixth. Then the two Williams cars, Jones and Reutemann. And Jones, as I look down the course, was right behind Villeneuve, and he'll be challenging. Now there is Gilles Villeneuve in sixth position. Alan Jones seventh. Carlos Reutemann, there he goes over the skyline in eighth position, and here they come towards us. Number one, the world champion Alan Jones, but it's the story we expected at the front as Villeneuve comes down to the Bosch curve, with Jones pushing him very hard indeed. It's the story we expected, because going round the Texaco bends ahead of these two and Carlos Reutemann behind them, it's the turbocharged cars. There's Villeneuve. He's made a masterly recovery. He just overcooked it at the Hellelicht curve. There go the two Renaults. There is Pironi behind them. And Carlos Reutemann. Piquet. Now another lap completed. The Renaults go through. Here's the battle for third, and Lafitte is trying to take Pironi, and Piquet is right behind Lafitte, who is in fourth position, and Piquet is going to take Lafitte as they go up the hill to the Hellenic curve. And he hasn't done it. It's still Pironi in the Ferrari, third. Then Lafitte and Piquet, number 5. And it's very interesting. 3 turbocharged cars, first, second and third. Then the 12-cylinder Talbot of Lafitte. And Lafitte's got his car beautifully balanced. I was talking to him after the practicing, and he sounded very, very happy about the balance of the 12-cylinder Talbot Matra. But it's not good enough at the moment, because even though the Ferrari doesn't handle all that well, Pironi in the Ferrari, because that's Piquet behind Lafitte. There's Pironi in the Ferrari, and although that doesn't handle as well, Pironi has got so much power in comparison with Jacques Lafitte behind him in fourth position. But Lafitte eating my words almost, because Lafitte comes right up to Pironi as they go into the left-handed Texaco bends. And at this point, the drivers can momentarily black out on that left-hander because the forces are so great. And now Jacques Lafitte is really trying. And Piquet is up behind Lafitte, and behind Piquet, Alan Jones is closing up. And it is clear that Didier Pironi is holding up Jacques Lafitte, allowing Nelson Piquet to close up on the Frenchman, allowing Alan Jones to close up on Piquet in the Brabham, and Carlos Reutemann is not so very far. There he is, not so very far behind Alan Jones. So Pironi 3, Lafitte 4 in the blue Talbot Matra. Number 5, Piquet is in 5th position. There's Alan Jones, the world champion, and Carlos Reutemann. So both the 2 Williams cars are going well, and they seem, incidentally, to have overcome the misfiring problem that dogged Alan Jones in Germany and cost him the race. They've been testing and have overcome it. Very, very close thing for third position. 4 cars together, and Carlos Reutemann just behind them, and Piquet now pops out from behind Lafitte's slipstream to see whether he can get his way through on the left-hander. That's the 180-mile-an-hour bend, but no, into Bosch curve. Third, fourth, fifth and sixth. There's the third man, Pironi in the Ferrari. Over the crest again he goes. Here he comes, Ferrari, Talbot, Pironi, Lafitte, completing another lap. Now, this could be Lafitte's chance to get past Didier Pironi into the straight, but Pironi will put his foot down. He's got something like 550 horsepower under his right foot with the turbocharged Ferrari. There's Villeneuve going through, and Villeneuve is down into 8th position from 6th, and he's got right behind him Riccardo Patrese. Recap on the positions then. As they go into the lap, it's Alain Prost leading at the front from René Arnoux is in 2nd place. In 3rd position, Didier Pironi. You're looking at the battle for 3rd position because behind Didier Pironi is ahead of Lafitte as I talk. Ahead of Lafitte has gone Nelson Piquet up into 4th position. So, on this lap, a change of position, and now Nelson Piquet's on his way. He's fought his way past the very determined Frenchman, Jacques Lafitte. But it's going to be very difficult indeed for Piquet, who already this year, that's number 5, has won in the Argentine Grand Prix and at San Marino. And of course at Germany, 3 wins, Nelson Piquet. And the Brazilian driver is in 2nd place in the World Championship with 35 points, and Lafitte closes on him. You are looking at the battle for 3rd position. Ahead of this bunch, of course, don't forget, are the 2 low-flying turbocharged Renaults of Alain Prost and his teammate René Arnoux driving round in formation. And they're now a good 10 seconds ahead of this battle for third, being held up by number 28 in the Scarlet Ferrari, Didier Pironi. Another lap completed. Pironi, Piquet, Lafitte, Jones, Reutemann. Behind Reutemann, way behind now, in 8th position. Villeneuve in the second Ferrari. Patrese challenging him. And Patrese ahead. Patrese in the orange arrows, I just caught a flash of him there, has moved up into 8th position ahead of Gilles Villeneuve. And now it's Piquet's going through, is he? Is he going to get ahead of Pironi? Pironi has got plenty of circuit, and now the fast part, and this is where the superior power of the Ferrari could tell, and it has. Pironi refused to be flustered, held his line, let the turbo power build up, and he had just got the edge when they had to take the corner. So there is the confirmation, 7 laps. Out of 53, Prost, Darnoux, Pironi, the 3 turbos, and there in 4th position, Nelson Piquet in the Brabham Ford V8, producing about 500 horsepower these days, but it's not enough for to beat the Ferraris. The Talbot Matra, then the Williams of world champion Alan Jones, Carlos Reutemann behind him. Reutemann in 7th place. Well, unless Piquet can really take his courage in both hands, I can't see things changing, because Pironi has got plenty of experience. He knows that he can, comparatively speaking, tour around the corners, if you call going through the Hellelicht chicane at about 90 miles an hour touring, because he knows that when he puts his foot down, he's got all that extra power to blast off on the straights. There's Villeneuve. Pironi in 3rd position still. Round the Glatz curve, and that's a 140 mile an hour corner, and this is where Piquet tried on the last lap. Is he going to try and do it again? And right behind him, Piquet's got plenty of reason to be worried, because right behind him is Jacques Lafitte. And did you see Piquet look in his mirrors? Piquet has got 2 problems. 1, to try and get past Pironi. 2, to prevent Lafitte from getting past him. So he needs eyes all round his head. And Lafitte is trying to take Piquet as they go up to the Texaco bends, the left-hander, and he's through. Jacques Lafitte, lovely passing manoeuvre, is through and up into 4th position. So it's Prost. Don't forget the Renaults out in front. We haven't seen much of them. Prost is still leading Arnoux. In 3rd position, the Ferrari of Pironi. In 4th position, the Talbot of Lafitte. Down to 5th position goes Nelson Piquet. Over the skyline they come, and chasing them in 6th and 7th places, Jones and Reutemann in the 2 Williams cars. 45 laps to go. The right, the left and the right at the Hellelicht chicane, and still Pironi is doggedly sitting there. Number 28, Didier Pironi, in his 55th Grand Prix, and he's pulling away now, and Piquet is again challenging. And Lafitte is now there in 4th position. Jacques Lafitte in 4th position behind Didier Pironi. And Piquet, oh, this is marvellous stuff. It really calls for no comment from me, except to say that Pironi seems to know exactly what he's doing. And try as he may, Jacques Lafitte, unless he can close up to him on... This is where Lafitte is tremendously quick, and he's through! Is he? Yes, he's held it and he's through! What an absolutely superb passing manoeuvre by Jacques Lafitte up into 3rd position. I have seen some fine tactical driving in the years I've been watching, but and Piquet is through as well. So what a change on that lap, because down from third position to fifth goes Didier Pironi. Up into third place goes Jacques Lafitte, and Nelson Piquet goes up into fourth, and Alan Jones is now right behind Pironi and going through. So Pironi has lost 3 places in that one lap. The order then, as Pironi tries to retake Jones. Is he doing it? Let's have a look as they come towards us. No, he's not. The order now, Alain Prost leading René Arnoux, and as Pironi, goes through with Reutemann and Patrese behind him. There is Alan Jones. So, Jacques Lafitte in third position. Ahead of him, the 2 turbocharged Renaults. Then Nelson Piquet in fourth position. There is Piquet. Alan Jones, number 1, is fifth, and Reutemann is challenging Pironi. And Villeneuve has just lapped in at about 305 kilometres an hour, and that's a speed in miles an hour of about 143. Well, Pironi, I don't know what's happened to him or the Ferrari. I guess it's just the handling of the Ferrari as we look at world champion Alan Jones. And Piquet just went offline, and straight through went Lafitte and Piquet, then Alan Jones, and now Pironi is dropping back. Reutemann is past him, and Patrese is challenging the Frenchman ahead of him. And here is obviously a slow motion replay. Yes, it is, slow motion replay. There's Lafitte third, Piquet in fourth position, and at that time Pironi was right behind him, and this must be where this is where Alan Jones closes right up on the Frenchman in the Ferrari. You see Patrese behind him, and now for the first time for a long time we see the 2 Renaults. Number 15, French Grand Prix winner Alain Prost, in only his 2nd season of Formula 1 racing, World Championship. And after 10 laps, there are the positions. Prost 1 second ahead of Arnoux, then Arnoux 17 seconds approximately ahead of Lafitte, who is 2 seconds ahead of Piquet, who is 1 second ahead of Jones, who has got Pironi right behind him in 6th position, or had at the time that caption was prepared. There's the race leader, number 15, 26-year-old Alain Prost from Saint-Chamond in France. I don't suppose for a moment he's wondering whether he's a dad at the moment. He's got more on his mind than that. But this is the man who had to decide whether he would become a professional footballer or a professional motor racer. And I suspect, to the disappointment of everybody behind him, he opted for motor racing. So, Arnoux goes through in 2nd place. Now we can look back along the course and see how far the 3rd man is. And what a long, long way it is. There's Lafitte, behind Lafitte, Piquet. Behind Piquet in 5th position, Alan Jones. There is Reutemann in 6th position. Oh, well, I've given up making predictions about Grand Prix racing, but with Jean-Pierre Jabouille having won the Austrian Grand Prix for Renault last year, 1980, and incidentally Jabouille is now one of the head men in the Talbot team for whom Lafitte is driving, and Lafitte's his brother-in-law. But with Jabouille having won for Renault last year, with Arnoux being well up last year, although he had to make 4 changes of tyres and finish well down in the running, it looks as though the Renaults have got it in the bag, because they're about 15 seconds ahead now through Pironi having held up the drivers behind him. Although Lafitte there is up into 3rd position, there is a considerable gap of some 15 seconds behind him and the turbocharged Renaults in front, who can therefore dictate the race from the front. Jacques Lafitte, jolly Jacques Lafitte, and there's Villeneuve! Villeneuve off at the Bosch curve. I recognise that from the white painting and the lettering on the course, and what a shattered Ferrari. Villeneuve must have gone off as Piquet went off last year in practicing. Villeneuve was in 9th position and you saw him get out of the car. And now there's Mansell, Nigel Mansell, the English driver who finished 3rd in Belgium, and he's right with Didier Pironi in the Ferrari, who is now 7th. So Mansell is driving an absolute storm of a race, and there goes John Watson through. Pironi 7th, Mansell 8th. John Watson has just taken 9th position from Riccardo Patrese. There is Patrese, or was, in the orange Arrows car, the Ragno Arrows. And Nigel Mansell, in his first full season of motor racing, Grand Prix, is in 8th position and challenging Pironi. And this is the anniversary of Mansell's first Grand Prix drive. The Austrian Grand Prix last year, he drove the Lotus, the Essex Lotus, for the first time in a Grand Prix in a pool of petrol, and had to retire when the engine burst with 3rd-degree petrol burns. And how he's challenging. 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. Look at this. Ferrari. John Player Special Lotus in 8th position. In 9th place, John Watson in the Marlboro MP4, the man who won the British Grand Prix, and then the Arrows of Italian Riccardo Patrese. And it's the same story again, just as Pironi in the Ferrari, when he was 3rd, was holding up Piquet and Lafitte and Jones and Reutemann. Now he's holding up Mansell and Watson and Patrese. And see how he uses the power. Over the hill now. This is where the Ferrari power really tells, and Watson is challenging Mansell for 8th position, but Mansell's got the line. I don't think Watson will get through. And see now the gap in that short distance that Pironi had pulled up, and already Mansell closes up on cornering. It must be terribly frustrating for Nigel Mansell. He's much quicker on the corners, but Pironi is so much faster on the straights. And Mansell's he's up alongside, he's got his front wheel right up alongside, and he's through, just as Lafitte passed Pironi at exactly the same point. Nigel Mansell, using every ounce of his determination, is through. And he is up into 7th place. Down another place goes Pironi, and now Watson and Patrese, 9th and 10th, are fighting each other and fighting Pironi as they complete another lap. Through goes Mansell. Look at the gap he's pulled out over Pironi, but Pironi can close up on acceleration. No, he can't. Watson's got enough momentum as they go into the Hellelicht chicane to hold that position. If ever Ferrari get that car to handle properly, there'll be no stopping it. And the British race engineer, Dr. Harvey Postlethwaite, who has just left the Fittipaldi team because of lack of funds, and incidentally the Fittipaldi cars are not racing here today for that very reason. There's Patrick Tombe into the pits. Patrick, who was driving, see them testing the suspension, and incidentally the suspension on these cars, and it's the Talbot, and Watson is with Patrese still. Mansell, where is Mansell? Mansell was right, is that him? But let's check as they come through the chicane. Didier Pironi, Mansell was right there. He's ahead, of course. Where is he? I'm looking down the course because the gap ahead of Pironi looks too great up to Mansell. Anyway, there is Pironi through, Watson behind him, then Riccardo Patrese, and that black car behind Patrese is Elio De Angelis' John Player Special Lotus, and there is the answer. That must be Mansell's car. I thought the gap was too much. Well, I don't know, it's difficult to tell from behind, but from the black colouring it looked to me as though it was Nigel Mansell's car. If we get a longer shot down the course, we'll soon see. whether it was Mansell in 7th position. It was. There is Nigel Mansell. I don't know what the problem is. Obviously, it's not tyres and it's not suspension. And Watson is going through ahead of... Well, it's all happening here at the Österreich Ring at this moment, because Watson has now gone up to 7th place from 9th, because Mansell was 7th and was out. That meant then that Pironi was 7th, and now Watson has passed him. So as we look at Jacques Lafitte on his own in 3rd position, let us recall that ahead of him are the 2 Renaults, and the distance between the race leader in time, Alain Prost, and Jacques Lafitte is there, 7.36 seconds. And that's interesting. We've been concentrating on the battle for 3rd and then down the field for 7th place, and the gap between the Renaults and Jacques Lafitte was 15 seconds. It's now 7.3 seconds, or was. So Jacques Lafitte has halved the gap between himself and the Renaults. He's catching up, and I don't think then, as the leader and the 2nd place man, Prost and Arnoux, close up on Alboreto. There is the Italian in the Tyrrell, keeping onto the inside of the course to let the Renaults through, and there's Lafitte. Lafitte's gaining. It's far less than 7.36 seconds now, I'm sure. Jacques Lafitte, in fact, is gaining on the Renaults at something like a second a lap, which is quite incredible. And there he is. There are the Renaults. They've both lapped Alboreto, and Lafitte will have to do that soon, but that shouldn't be too much of a problem. There's the man of the race at the moment. 6th in Brazil, 2nd in Belgium, 3rd at Monaco, 2nd in Spain, 3rd in the British Grand Prix, and 3rd in Germany, Jacques Lafitte. Number 26 in the Talbot Matra, and he is 3rd in the World Championship. "37 years old. Brother-in-law of Jean-Pierre Jabouille, and when he's not driving a racing car, he's managing the team, because Gérard Ducarrouge has left, and after 26 laps, Prost and Arnoux are separated by less than a second, and it's only 6 seconds approximately now, because Lafitte is gaining. He's 6 seconds ahead of Piquet, who is 6 seconds ahead of Jones, who is 5 seconds ahead of Reutemann. And it's still pretty close for those 6 positions, and those are the World Championship point scoring situations. There are the 4th man, Nelson Piquet. You saw the gap on the caption between Piquet, number 5, who is in 2nd position in the World Championship, 3 wins already behind him this year, including the last Grand Prix at Hockenheim in Germany. Prost off, that's the race leader, and he's not touring through the tyres, as did Villeneuve and Reutemann, if you remember, early in the race. He's loosening his helmet. Prost is out of the race. This is sensational. Alain Prost, the Frenchman, who won in France and led in Germany until he had the rev limiter stick in his engine, as a result of which Alan Jones passed him, and subsequently Piquet. Well, cruel luck for Alain Prost, and this is significant. I don't know what's happened. I thought as he went off the circuit, that it was a tyre that had gone, but I can see that all 4 tyres are inflated. So it's anybody's guess. Maybe engine trouble, maybe gearbox trouble even. No, it wouldn't be gearbox the way he went off the course. But anyway, for whatever reason, Alain Prost is out of the race, and there is the new race leader. And it's number 16, René Arnoux, who led last year until he had the repeated tyre trouble. And Arnoux has been having a bad season, but it looks as though it's coming good for him. Behind René Arnoux in 2nd position, how much behind, is Jacques Lafitte. Up into 3rd position now goes Nelson Piquet, to 4th goes Alan Jones, up another place to 5th goes Carlos Reutemann, and into the World Championship point standing comes Carlos Reutemann, and there is the 2nd place man, Jacques Lafitte. 7th is Didier Pironi, 8th is Riccardo Patrese, 9th is Elio De Angelis. And Lafitte is continuing to gain, not on 2 Renaults now, but on 1. Look at this replay. Now let's see if we can see what's wrong with Prost's car. All 4 wheels are rolling. All 4 tyres are inflated. The suspension looks all right. It's impossible to tell by looking at this still shot, which is a frozen frame, of course, what is wrong with Alain Prost's Renault. But there's clearly nothing wrong with René Arnoux' Renault. Although I fear it's not going fast enough for René Arnoux. He will be getting pit signals as he goes past, and he will be seeing the number that is shown to him getting smaller and smaller. The number that is shown to him is the gap in seconds between himself and the man who is driving the blue Talbot 12-cylinder Matra engine car, Jacques Lafitte. And the number's getting smaller because Lafitte is getting closer all the time. 2 Frenchmen. There's not a Frenchman, very much an Englishman, the archetypal Englishman with his walrus moustache, Nigel Mansell. And there is Pironi, Patrese, De Angelis, Derek Daly, who has been lapped, and Eliseo Salazar, the Chilean, the last of these cars. And they are the 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th. Take no notice of Derek Daly there, number 17. He's been lapped. And who's that? It's Stour, the Orange Arrows. Siegfried Stour doing a bit of mid-race maintenance, I don't think, because it looks as though his engine has blown. Meantime, Pironi is trying desperately to hold his 7th position. Now being harried by Riccardo Patrese, the man who led the first World Championship event of the year at Long Beach until he went out. But he, like the others in front of him, has got to find a place to try and get past this evil handling Ferrari, and that's the place. That's where Jacques Lafitte has done so well in the Talbot. And Eliseo Salazar is driving a magnificent race. The Chilean just coming over the crest. Number 14, look back in the Ensign car. It's his first season of Formula One racing, World Championship. And he's in far from the fastest car, and he's in 10th position. Another lap completed. And Daly. No, it's not. It's De Angelis. De Angelis passing Patrese, or is he? No, Patrese holds it. Still in 8th position. Elio De Angelis, number 11 in the John Player Special, is still behind Riccardo Patrese. There is Siegfried Stour's car, and after 30 laps, those are the positions. And you can see now that how Lafitte is closing. Only 3.39 seconds between Jacques Lafitte in second place, and it's less than that because there they are. They being the race leader, René Arnoux, and the second place man, Jacques Lafitte, who is now right with the turbocharged Renault, Jacques Lafitte, who is closing up on and will soon have to lap a tail ender. A race full of incident. Nothing is the gap in seconds, in tenths of seconds and in hundredths of seconds. Well, there's obviously a bit of a gap, but it's virtually impossible to separate them, and they're coming up now on to Andrea De Cesaris, the young Italian driving the Marlboro MP4, who went off in practice for the 17th time this year. It took his mechanics 120 man-hours to rebuild his car between the end of practice and the start of the race, and he is not the most popular man in the Marlboro McLaren team. But for what it's worth, Andrea De Cesaris has sworn to his mechanics that he will get the car home in one piece, so he better not be punted off here, because he's just about to be taken, and has been, by the race leader. That was a good bit of tactics. And Lafitte is through. Or is he? He's right on the marbles. He's on the loose stuff, but he's got through. That was a very hairy manoeuvre of Jacques Lafitte to brave going off the racing line and wide on the circuit where you get a lot of loose tyre rubber and you can very easily lose adhesion. But he didn't. And he closes on Arnoux. This is Lafitte's forte, this corner. That is where he took Pironi. And Jacques Lafitte, with all his racing experience, seems to get better and better every race. He's won 4 Grand Prix already. Arnoux has won 2. He won in South Africa and Brazil last year. And that lap time is about the same as Gilles Villeneuve's earlier on in the race. I didn't keep a note of it, but I remembered it was 307 k's, so it's about the same speed as Villeneuve was setting at the beginning of the race after he had gone off and was trying to regain his position. And of course Villeneuve is well done. Arnoux up there in the lead. Villeneuve out of the race, of course, with a shattered motor car, which has been dragged off the Bosch curve. And now the interest at the front is there. Arnoux versus Lafitte. Behind them, in 3rd position, Nelson Piquet. Then world champion Alan Jones, 4th. The man who's leading this year's World Championship, Carlos Reutemann, 5th. Behind him in 6th position, John Watson. And again Lafitte on the approach to the first left-hander in the Texaco Benz, and the second one. Each time he closes right up. But in order to get past Arnoux, Jacques Lafitte has got to have the nose of his car virtually underneath the rear wing of Arnoux' car, because if Arnoux can do what Pironi was doing earlier on in the race, and he is doing it all the time, just put his foot down on the straights and use the power of the Renault, he will be able to keep ahead of Lafitte. But now Lafitte is closer to him at this point than he's been before at any time in the race. But again, the turbo pulls away. Tremendous pressure on René Arnoux, number 16, in his 42nd Grand Prix, who used to drive in the Surtees team, before that in the Martini car, which was a disaster, ex-Formula 2 champion of Europe, as is Jacques Lafitte behind him, but quite a gap in years between them. Arnoux and Giacomelli. That's Giacomelli's car, and what a display. We had a fireworks display here last night. We're getting another one today of a quite different kind. And Giacomelli's car's on fire. He's out of the cockpit. He's wasted no time undoing his safety belts and jumping out, and who can blame him? Because there will still be, I suspect, something like 40 gallons of petrol on that car, and if they don't get their fire out soon, there could be a conflagration in the pits. And I'm looking across at my box and trying to look at the monitor and Giacomelli's car at the same time, and Lafitte's right up to Arnoux, and I can tell you that they've got the Giacomelli fire out, so that's a potential disaster avoided. And here's a potential disaster for Arnoux if Lafitte keeps going the way he is. He's really pressing. And now Lafitte is in a really challenging position. I said he was closer on the previous lap than he had been before, and did you see that? Jacques Lafitte calmly takes his left hand off the steering wheel and makes an OK sign to his pit. That shows you how totally in command at these incredible speeds today's racing drivers are. Now they're on the way to the Glatz curve. Giacomelli's car, very, very second hand, but not, I suspect, for sale. And there is Giacomelli in the background with his helmet off. And just coming up from behind the car with the bald head is Ermanno Cuoghi, the very famous mechanic who used to look after Niki Lauda in the Ferrari team for so long. And what a sorry sight that car is. But all around the circuit, these tens of thousands of Austrians and Italians, although the Italians haven't got much to cheer about at the moment, are absolutely agog at this terrific scrap for the lead. And here, Jacques Lafitte, right with Arnoux as he comes up to the bend that he does so well on. And my goodness, he did better there than he's done before. Jacques Lafitte came right up to the rear wheel of René Arnoux' Renault, but now he's dropped back. And Arnoux, of course, knows that he has to be careful on that corner, because now, for 3 laps in succession, Jacques Lafitte has challenged, and on that lap almost got past. I suspect if René Arnoux had been just another 6 inches further to the right, Lafitte would have got past. First and second we're looking at, and they're closing up on 3 cars in front of them, and there they are. It's Pironi and Salazar, and I think it was Derek Daly. I'll check, but this could affect the positions here. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Arnoux has got a real problem now. He knows that Lafitte is right behind him and forcing. He can see those 3 cars that are ahead of him that he's about to lap, and he must be trying to work out in his mind how he can get past them. And it's De Angelis and Patrese there. And there is Pironi, Salazar, and it's Pironi, Salazar and Daly who has been lapped by the other 2. And Arnoux has got to get past these 3 cleanly, because he's in a very, very hazardous situation now. He's very vulnerable. He's got to get his line right as he comes up to the Texaco bends. And don't forget, this is where Jacques Lafitte has challenged him on the last 3 laps. And he's through the first left-hander all right. Now he's got to work out how to get past the 3 cars ahead. And he's gone wide, and Lafitte is through. Fantastic! Jacques Lafitte is really on top of his magnificent form here at the Österreich Ring today. Just as he took Pironi earlier on in the lap, and 3rd position in the process. A magnificent cornering manoeuvre. Jacques Lafitte saw his chance, took it with both hands, and is through into the lead. Down to 2nd place goes Arnoux. Past Eliseo Salazar goes Jacques Lafitte, and puts therefore the Chilean between him and Arnoux, and that'll help him as they come into the Hellenic chicane. And it's Pironi, Daly, then Lafitte. Don't forget that Pironi and Daly has already been lapped. Pironi is in 7th position. So the race leader, the new race leader, and Arnoux has passed Salazar. Now Lafitte must be held up by Daly, or Arnoux could retake the lead as they go round the Glatz curve. Up to the highest point of the course, down to the fastest part of the course. What's this? It's a replay. A replay of Lafitte. Now watch. See the way Arnoux goes out a bit wide to the right. Lafitte flicks through on the inside, puts both his wheels over the white line, gets a ripple from the suspension and a roar of applause from the crowd. And this is the full lap after he had retaken the lead, and Arnoux is now through and has got clear track between himself and Jacques Lafitte. And after 40 laps in this 53 lap race then, Piquet still in 3rd position, Jones is still 4th, Reutemann is still 5th, Watson is still 6th. And there is this battle for 7th place going on between Pironi, De Angelis, Patrese, and Salazar is just behind them. That's Derek Ongaro on the left, who starts the races, the Englishman, and the shorter man on the right with the glasses walking away is Bernie Ecclestone, the head man of the Formula One Constructors Association, and certainly the most powerful man in modern Grand Prix motor racing. 11 laps. There's the board. The drivers can see that. Jacques Lafitte sees it. Jacques Lafitte sees it in the lead. René Arnoux sees it in 2nd position. So, 42 laps completed, 11 laps to go, including the one that they are on. And now Jacques Lafitte is closing up on Riccardo Patrese, who is 9th, and Elio De Angelis, number 11, in the black John Player Special Lotus, who is in 8th position. Not a moment's dullness in this race. There's been something to watch all the way round, including a lot of pace changes, and Lafitte goes past Patrese. The brakes on the handling of that Talbot Matra the handling and the brakes are absolutely magnificent, because that Arrows car of Riccardo Patrese is beautifully set up. The Italian is no slouch, and Jacques Lafitte passed him as though he was standing still. Very demoralising for Patrese. 9th position and lapped. Patrese's not had the best of seasons either. He led at Long Beach. He finished well up in one of the races. Riccardo Patrese, number 30 in the Arrows, number 29 in the Arrows, was second at San Marino. But the elusive win for Riccardo Patrese has still to be gained. Across the line now, another lap completed. The distance between Lafitte, who is leading, and Piquet, who is third. Watch the clock stop. And that's Patrese into the pits. I said Patrese hadn't had the best of years. He must have heard me, or the engine or something must have heard me, into the pits. And on the left, in the middle, is Dave Luckett bending over. That's the man. I've had so many inquiries, who was badly hurt in the Belgian Grand Prix at the start when he was trapped between Patrese and Sturr's cars, and he's all right. The mechanic in the Arrows team. Lafitte over the crest. Arnoux still hard behind him. De Angelis now in 8th position. Patrese is out of the race effectively, because even if he gets going again, all the tail-enders will have passed him, of course, except those he had already lapped himself. But it seems to me there's no chance of Riccardo Patrese getting World Championship points now, unless there's a lot of decay amongst the runners in front of him. Well, is there any trouble with René Arnoux' car? It doesn't look like it. I think it was just absolutely superb driving and the magnificent handleability of the Talbot Matra that enabled Jacques Lafitte to take the lead. And now there's less than 8 laps to go. Lafitte leading by 2.5 seconds. Arnoux 9 seconds ahead of Piquet, who's 5 seconds ahead of Jones, who's 10 seconds ahead of Reutemann, who is a long, long way ahead of Watson, who has nearly been lapped by Jacques Lafitte. And as we look at Jacques Lafitte, I can tell you that John Watson, who is in 6th position, is in trouble, and so is Salazar, number 14. That's the man I was praising, the Chilean, in the ensign. He was in 10th position, higher up than he's ever been in a Grand Prix in his first year of World Championship driving, and he's obviously out of the race. Arnoux, second place, completing a lap round the Jochen Rindt curve. There's Salazar's car in the background, and Salazar's out of it, presumably walking to the pits, so he hasn't got very far to go. As Arnoux, there's Lafitte. Well, the Talbot of Lafitte, the Renault of Arnoux. Both, I was just going to say, they seem to be handling well, and off spins the Arrows of Riccardo Patrese. So he came back into the race, and one of the mechanics said to me last night, if we do more than 40 laps, I wouldn't be at all surprised if the engine blows. I don't know why they were expecting trouble, but they obviously were, and it has. And that's Salazar. Now you can see what a racing driver looks like out of his helmet. Good looking chap, Eliseo Salazar, tremendously popular, very, very nice, courteous man, always helpful to people like me, and I feel very sorry for him. He doesn't seem to be particularly worried. Lafitte crosses, and there's just 2 laps to go now. Jacques Lafitte is on the penultimate lap, the last lap but one, lap 52, with a secure lead. He's got a cushion between himself and René Arnoux of 3 or 4 seconds. The Talbot sounds superb. It's 5 seconds, 5.4 seconds between Lafitte and Arnoux, 7 seconds between Arnoux and Piquet, and it looks to me as though with only one full lap to go at the end of this one, the race order is set. Although it is far from Jacques Lafitte looks cautiously in his left-hand mirror. He will of course see René Arnoux' Renault as a yellow blob with another white blob on top of it, which is Arnoux' crash helmet. And there's one place that Jacques Lafitte isn't going to be passed, and it's just here on the Texaco curves where he's light years faster than anybody else. Well, Jacques Lafitte is on his way to another 9 points to add to the 25 points that he already has, which put him in third position in the World Championship. He's on his way to add to that 6th place that he had in Brazil, the 2 second places he had in Belgium and in Spain, and the 3 third places that he had in Monaco, Britain and Germany. Magnificent consistency. He is now on his last lap. Round the last lap then with Jacques Lafitte. The Hellerlicht chicane. 3rd gear. 80 miles an hour. 4th gear. 5th gear. 165 miles an hour. Up to the Glatz curve. 140 miles an hour. Change down into 3rd gear. René Arnoux is still 2nd. Nelson Piquet, who we haven't seen for a long time, is still in 4th place. Jones is 4th. Sorry, I got it wrong there. Piquet 3rd, of course. Jones 4th. Reutemann 5th. And John Watson in 6th position. As down to the Bosch curve for the last time at 145 miles an hour comes Jacques Lafitte. Now change momentarily down into 3rd gear for the Texaco Benz, 10,800 RPM, up into 4th, 145 miles an hour. Behind him, René Arnoux, 3rd, Piquet, and he's well on his way to get points. And this race is absolutely critical for Carlos Reutemann, who is leading the World Championship and who will get 2 points for finishing in 5th place if he completes this lap where he is. And once again, the Williamses will have been astoundingly reliable, finishing in 4th and 5th places. But now, the race winner, he's won the race, the 1981 Austrian Grand Prix, the first victory of the year, Jacques Lafitte. 2nd, and there he is, René Arnoux. 3rd, there he is, Nelson Piquet. In the background, crossing the line in 4th place, Alan Jones. And the cheerful wave, a well-deserved roar of applause from the crowd for Jacques Lafitte. A very, very happy man. There's the confirmation. Piquet 3rd, 7 seconds behind Lafitte. Alan Jones just 5 seconds behind Piquet. Then Reutemann, and John Watson gets the last championship point for finishing in 6th position. Now, the World Championship, that means Reutemann's still in the lead, but Piquet is 2 points closer. Jacques Lafitte is closer to Piquet than he was, still in 3rd position. Still 4th is Alan Jones, and 5th equal Watson and Villeneuve. And a quite magnificent win for Jacques Lafitte, who justifiably looks very happy indeed. It's the 5th Grand Prix win in his career. He's won in Sweden, he won in Germany last year, and Jacques Lafitte then, with 5 wins, really must be looking forward to the rest of the World Championship this year. On his left, on your right, René Arnoux, not at all unhappy with his 2nd place. An enormous bouquet for Jacques Lafitte. He's probably wishing he could go away and do some of his beloved fishing. An enormous cup to add to the laurel wreath. And Nelson Piquet not looking too unhappy with his 3rd place. So it is obvious that the World Championship, with 4 races left, is going right to the end of the series, and the next Grand Prix is the Grand Prix of Holland at Zandvoort in 2 weeks' time, and we hope that you'll be with us to watch that.